Hello, welcome to Sailing Uncovered. It's episode 33. I'm Alec Wilkinson. Thanks for listening, as always. And for the first time, we're not just available as our usual podcast on your usual podcast platforms, but we're also streaming a video version of the podcast on our YouTube channel. So give it a go. Well, extraordinary times, aren't they? And I just want to say, wherever you are, wherever you're listening or watching, hope you and your families are staying safe, whatever the lockdown situation is in the country that you're following us from. Now, we're not going to go on about the coronavirus, but we are going to talk about eSailing, and more specifically, the rise of eSailing, especially in the last few months and weeks of this lockdown period, because the numbers have gone absolutely through the roof. We've got a variety of guests to talk to, from the gamers to the software designers, how they developed the game, and also pro and Olympic sailors who play the game regularly, and we're going to ask them what they get out of the sport. But let's start with Thomas Bjorn-Luthi, who's basically the godfather of live streaming of eSailing. And Thomas, thanks for joining us. Isn't it extraordinary how the game has taken off?
There is 5,000 daily players before 1st of March, and now there's more than 30,000 daily players in this game.
So a 25,000 player increase in, 5 weeks?
Yes, and that's amazing. But the most amazing part here is it's not gamers sitting at their home and playing it. It's sailors. So the big dream of the CEO, Philippe Gunet, was to create a game for sailors, has come true. Because 80% of the players are sailors and 12% are non-sailors.
Yeah, Philippe Gunet, the founder of Virtual Regatta, and we'll be speaking to one of his original engineers, one of the masterminds behind the game in a moment. But I mean, it's not just about the fact that people are stuck at home with nothing to do, because there are lots of other opportunities, other things that they could be doing. There's all sorts of other eSports, and there are plenty of movies on Netflix. But an awful lot of sailors are choosing eSailing. And I think that says something about how realistic it is, but also about the community.
Yeah, yes, indeed. And also because it's a sports simulator, and sports simulators react another way than real esport. There's a difference in esport as well. Sports simulators really appeal to the same people doing their sport because they want to do something what they like. They want to be in the same mindset. And some of the players we will meet, I know you have Kjoob in the studio later. He also will come into and say, hey, I actually feel the same way. I have the same excitement when I'm playing this game and the same strategic and tactical mindset. And that's very well done by Virtual Regatta.
Okay, Thomas, you stay there. We'll talk a lot more in a moment. But you mentioned Kjoob. Let's get him on. So Kjoob is a young gamer, a young e-sailer playing in Belgium. He's joined me as a co-commentator on a few of these streams, and I'm just really interested to get his idea of e-sailing and why he thinks it is really taken off and what it is. Kjoob, thanks for joining us. What is it, Kjoob, that really grabbed you about e-sailing?
I think it's just the way how easy it is to just jump in and start having fun. I mean, from the moment you have some spare time, even if it's only 10 minutes, because the races are so short, you can just go on your phone, go on your PC or laptop and start playing. And from the moment you start, you immediately get the same kind of feeling, the same stress as you have in real sailing, where you have the boats around you, and well, it's very nice to have it so close to you.
Now, are you a sailor? In the real world?
Yeah. I sail in laser.
Okay. So how big a help is that in Virtual Regatta in playing this game?
Well, I think real life sailing can be a great help if you're starting with the game. So to understand the basics of sailing, you really, well, it's a big help to have that kind of basic knowledge about sailing, about the wind, about wind shift and stuff like that. But then from the moment you really start, you start building up some kind of experience in the game, then you see that it's really a world on its own. So you have things in the game that doesn't happen in real life. And also, well, so some aspects are a bit different. So it's really the basic steps are quite similar to real life sailing, but then from the moment you start gaining experience, it becomes more and more world on its own.
Well, how realistic would you say it is to real sailing? You say there are certain aspects. Kind of, what are they? I mean, I'm presuming the fact that so many sailors are competing in it. I'm presuming that means that it is very realistic.
Well, I think one of the biggest differences is that you actually don't know the players in real life, and you never have to encounter them after race as well. So you can see that to few sailors sometimes you can get nasty penalties or stuff like that because, well, it doesn't matter. Players don't know you, and they can do whatever they want without anyone knowing, or having the personal confrontation.
So, someone wanting to get started, how easy is it? What do you do?
It's really easy. If you have a phone, you just go to your Play Store, App Store, whatever, and you download the game. You create an account, which is also you don't need anything to create it. Or on your laptop as well. You go to the website. No need to even install an application or something for it. So I think in 5 minutes you can start and join a race.
And it's all free, isn't it?
Yes, everything is free. There are some kind of subscriptions that you can have, monthly ones, but well, you don't need those to just have fun and to race against others.
But admit it though, you guys who are really into it, you can spend money on pimping your boats, can't you?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of money you can spend on everything you want on the race helps that can lead you into having better scores and stuff like that. But well, in my own opinion, I think it's not even necessary. I personally sail without investing too much money in those things, and I still find it very fun to enjoy just the racing, and even without all those extra helps, it's still very nice to play.
Well, from that point of view, it really is like sailing, isn't it? Because you can throw as much money into it as as you want, depending on how much you've got. Now you are actually quite important within the international e-sailing community because you set up, I know, the first sort of international racing community group, and you've been at the heart of developing that community. How important would you say is the community? Because I get a sense that even though many of you haven't even met, you are all sort of quite close and supportive.
Well, I think the community has a few good aspects. One of them is, of course, that you have a strong player base where you have multiple players at once online, and you can do meetings and for instance, set up races at given times. But the other aspect, and that's what Thomas said already, the well, a lot of real world sailors are also in the game. So from the moment you get to know one another, you know, okay, he's doing that sort of thing in the sailing world, and this gives you a lot of tips and tricks from the real world as well. So you get input from a lot of parts of the sailing world, and they are all together connected together to that game.
All right, well, let's cross now to Switzerland. In fact, the Swiss Alps. It sounds idyllic, doesn't it? Julien de Biase of SailGP, your COO, and right now you are self-isolating in a chalet in the French Alps, which sounds like quite an easy thing to do.
Hi, Alec. Nice to see you today. Yes, not much snow, but it's pretty quiet over here in the Alps.
Okay, so let's talk about eSailGP and just explain how and why you guys have embraced e-sailing so much.
Very easy. I mean, when we started SailGP, we thought it would be awesome to have a virtual component to it. And instead of starting our own game or trying to invent something new, we thought it would be the right thing to do to join an existing community. So I called Philippe, and we had lunch in Geneva, and immediately connected with the guy, and thought we could do something together. So essentially, we joined an existing game as opposed to creating our own to be part of an existing pool of players.
So can you explain the competition and how you came up with the format and so on, and how it's going to work?
We were not too sure initially what to do, so we did a few different trials, and we launched the game during the real life final in Marseille 2019. We did a few experiments with it. We had a live game in the race village in Marseille, which was actually poorly attended. I was expecting more, but then online, people were raging. Lots of players were playing eSailGP online, and we thought, okay, perhaps the future is to focus on that rather than try to have events during our existing events, during our real life events. And for this year, 2020, we moved on to a format that is very simple. People can play remotely, they can play during real life SailGP events, but behind their screen from home, from anywhere in the world. And every time we have a live event, then we have a winner, and those winners will compete in a super final at the end of the season. The winner of the final will then race on an F50 and get a ride on the real thing.
Wow, that's thrilling, isn't it?
Yes,
that's a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Definitely, yeah. We were just playing also with ideas like prize money and what kind of prize to come up with, for this series. And we thought actually the best thing to do is to connect virtual and real life at the end and invite the winner +1 to one of the events and get to see the boats, get to meet the sailors, and get a ride on the boat. And we thought that a unique experience was the right thing to do.
And how do you activate it within a SailGP event?
Well, for this year, 2020, we don't have any activations within the SailGP event. So it's really, you have the real life SailGP events that are taking place as a regatta or as a live event. And then separately in the virtual sphere, you have the competition that's going on globally, between players. And these are two different things that meet at the end when the winner gets to ride on an F-15.
And all those events are being live streamed, or the main ones certainly, and there are a few pop-up streams happening as well, just to keep everyone across it. How important are those live streams?
Yeah, we talked a lot, with the people from the community, Bjorn-Luthi, but also L1, Philippe and his crew, and kind of like got advice from these guys as to what was the right thing to do. And I liked the idea of streaming our events, but SailGP is all about, let's say, short and impactful as opposed to long production. So we decided to stream only the final of each qualifier. So it's a short happening, 45, 50 minutes between the 8 best players of each series. And that is streamed, that is produced by eSailingTV, by Bjorn-Luthi, and we're very pleased, with the result. It's very engaging. Thomas has also moved it to the next level where you can now see the players on camera. There's interviews with the players. So we're thinking all of that is the start of something great. We're hoping to learn together as a group and really take those streams to the next level. The vision ultimately could be as crazy as if we had a situation like Kjoob 2019 where there was too much wind and we couldn't conduct the actual racing with the real F50s, is that one day we could envisage, actually replacing that day on the water with a competition between the skippers on the sailing game, and make that count for points. Obviously, probably nobody's ready for that just now, but this is probably where the world is going. And we're thinking as a group we can move towards that and make sure we have the quality and the right rulings on the water or on the digital water to allow for that.
Well, you mentioned, light winds and maybe eSailing replacing the real SailGP race day. What about now with this coronavirus emergency? Where does eSailGP sit now? How important is it?
Very important for us. Tonight, we actually have some of the athletes competing in the game against top players. We are actually exploring some ideas at the moment and see if we can produce some short form content, including athletes that might be aired on broadcast, essentially. So yeah, I mean, the world is evolving at the moment. Everybody is looking for new opportunities and new ways to engage. So we just want to take steps and make sure that the quality of the product is there. But we're definitely interested in just diving into this more. We have used SailGP or eSailGP a lot in the past, also just to teach kids sailing. We have a very strong youth program, and we figure that explaining a tack or a jibe on the game is so much more efficient than trying to play with hands and try to tell kids the wind comes from here and you push your tiller there, but you go to the other direction. And with the game, we can do all this very simply and in a fun way.
Now, Russell Coutts, who obviously runs SailGP, is the cornerstone of the event, of the series. He was at the eSailing World Championships in Bermuda in the autumn. I was chatting to him, and I was actually quite surprised by how he has embraced it. I was expecting maybe a bit of skepticism from such a great sailor, but he really enjoys it.
Yeah, Russell is definitely interested in new technologies and thinking forward all the time. He has played with the game a lot, but recently I noticed he was not playing that much anymore. So I asked him what's going on, and after a few jokes, he admitted that he's now advising his son, who is at the controls from a tactical standpoint.
Good stuff. So we're going to hear from Matt Cornwell, actually, who has sailed with you guys, has done America's Cups, and is your studio analyst for the live TV coverage of SailGP. And he's an avid fan of eSailing. So we're going to catch up with him in just a moment. But before we do, I want to ask you really where we stand with SailGP and the current emergency.
We would love to run more events this year, of course. We have had to cancel a couple, but we're hopeful that everybody will come out of the tunnel very soon, and then we can get back to providing entertainment for all. So stay tuned.
So as things stand, it's just the two events cancelled so far. You're still hopeful of getting the others away, the one in the UK and the one in Denmark.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a challenging situation for everybody. We don't know for sure. It's very hard to read the situation. We would wish we had a crystal ball that could tell us this is when the world's going to start spinning again. But at the moment, we have decided to just monitor the situation and take one event after the other.
Right now, let's bring in Joseph Ozanne, who's in lockdown in Spain. Joseph, thanks for joining us. Just give us a little bit of your background, because you were involved right at the very start of the eSailing game. So tell us about how that came about.
Yeah, I'm initially not a gamer. I'm not really into this world, but I'm coming from the sailing industry. I've been working in this cup for 15 years, building like performance tools and simulator for the America's Cup. So I've been contacted by Virtual Regatta, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, to collaborate on the game.
And how much sort of effort did you put into making it as realistic as possible to sailing? Was that fundamental to when you were developing the game, or was fun the number one priority?
I think it's really, you need to find the right balance, because as Arthur said, it has to be easy, and sailing is not easy. So you have to simplify sailing to make sure you get the core of the sport. So it's quite it's quite easy to make it very complicated, actually. So you need to really think about the sport and what makes the sport fun and what you want to capture out of the sailboat, so it can be translated to a good gaming experience. So obviously on a boat, I mean, you've got your crew, you've got all your sail trim, everything. So some part of it you want to remove it.
How long did it take? I mean, how long were you working on creating this game?
I mean, it's probably I'm probably not the right person to answer here, but I mean, Philippe Guinier, who is creator of Regional Regatta, is I mean, the company was mostly involved in an offshore game, and which is still a very successful game, and it works very, very well. And he's been pushing for the inshore version of it long time ago. So the very first version were like, honestly, it was more like 10 years ago. And with I mean, he was really convinced that that's a game for the sailors all over the world, and that's really what you try to capture is the ability to be able to do a regatta, a 5-minute regatta when you're waiting for the bus or whatever, between like two meetings or whatever.
Or waiting for the breeze to kick in so you can go and race.
Exactly, and that's perfectly adapted for that. So this was pursued like years ago, and so it's been a long time before arriving to the game now, and there have been a lot of experience in the way you on which feature you focus on and how you can improve it.
Now you're working for American Magic. What's your role there?
My role is, I mean, I'm running the simulator department, so I'm obviously that's also a part of eSport that is very important, because now we have a level of modeling and development which is very high, and now we use in sailing, in professional sailing team, we use the simulator at a very high level, like similar to what we do in Formula One, and so that's the focus is a bit different, because we obviously try to capture the physics of the boat as accurate as possible, and we use that for design and development. But this is an area where it involved it changed a lot over the years, and now we can spend like nearly 6-8 hours a day on the simulator onshore.
Yeah, I don't know how similar it is to the SailGP simulator that they use at Artemis Technologies just outside London. But if you're interested, there's video from inside that simulator on our YouTube channel. And we've got a whole episode on podcast episode on that as well. You can just scroll down your episodes to find that. So tell us what's the latest with American Magic? What are you guys able to do, if anything, in this lockdown period?
I mean, it's a very tough period for American Magic and for all the teams actually, and we actually have we are like, the team is I mean, even though I'm currently in Spain, where part of our design offices are, but down in Florida, the boat is still in Florida, in the shed in Florida, and we are trying to just the team is a bit on hold to wait and see what's going to happen next. But obviously, with the cancellation of the event in Europe, the entire program has to be revisited a bit. But that for the virtual part of it, it's a good period, because we just sail more and more in the simulator, and I've got like simulator version all over the world, and I've got my customer among the team are growing, and we can do virtual sailing among the team as well. So it's very, very useful actually.
I read a report recently, and I'm not sure how real it can be, but that Luna Rossa were claiming that they are able to get out on the water and train because they've got their crew just down to 4. So therefore, they're following the legal social distancing they have to in Italy, and the grinding is being done electronically by computers. I don't know if you've heard anything like that. Is that even possible?
I'm programming simulator, so I'm pretty convinced that you can remove a lot of people on the boat, but actually, I think we should, we could probably run the boat with less people on board, but that's not what we try to do. We try to win the America's Cup with normal way, with a full crew and everything. But yes, you can do a lot of things now.
Okay, before we wrap up the show, let's bring Thomas Bjorn-Luthi back in, the founder of eSailingTV. Thomas, it's fascinating, isn't it, how the age range of players has changed in the last couple of years. They started off being a lot older, and now the average age is dropping.
Yeah, it's amazing to see, and this is the cool thing about the game. It's because more and more sailors joining in, and more sailing clubs can see the potential of using e-sailing as part of their structure in the club, especially in the winter times when they can't sail. So we came from an average age around 34 years old, and now it's dropping down to 28. And it doesn't sound much, 6 years, but in this game, with more than 175,000 yearly players, it is much.
Whether it's an advantage to be older and more experienced, or younger and faster with the reflexes.
Yeah, it's quite funny because the older players has much more time to play than the younger players, and they do it more consistently, where the younger players, they go on and play when they have some time, or there's a very special regatta, where the oldest players, they're sitting 8 to 10 times a day and playing.
So let's just wrap things up really by looking at the future. And where you think this is all going. You know, is everyone going to disappear once the lockdowns end, or do you think we are seeing a community building now that will stick with the sport?
I think we will see a community that's building up and stick to the sport. We will lose around 20% of those who's playing now because they really want to go on water. But now they have found a game where they can relax in their breaks in between races when there's a lighter breeze and they can't sail. A good example is Bartlam Briggs and Pim van der Woek from the Dutch national team. Both of them are top e-sailers, and Bartlam Briggs was also part of the World Championship in e-sailing in 2019 in Bermuda. So this just shows how top players are enjoying this game, both competing in it, but also to use it to relax. So in the future, I see it as a game we can really do in a high competition level. Maybe dream about going to the Olympics as one of the first sports simulators.
Well, hey, apparently eSailing will be one of the eSports presented at the Paris 2024 Games. Things have to be confirmed, obviously, but that's certainly what the IOC is saying, and that would be incredible, wouldn't it? For eSailing to be one of very few eSports in the Olympic Games. So we shall see and keep an eye on how that develops. But the federations, the national sailing federations' involvement will be crucial.
Yeah, and also the strategy the federations are doing. Right now, I think it's 8 federations that is part of the world ranking list. And they're using different strategies. Some federations, like the Spanish and the Danes, jumps into the game and embracing the community, embracing those who are really playing the game and doing collaboration with them. And we see in Spain, in their national championship, or these tests they've been doing for the national championship, 900 players are participating. Just imagine a sailing event with one class with 900 players from the same nation at the same regatta. That's incredible what's happening here, and it's because they're collaborating between the community, those guys who's playing this game very much and has a passion for it, and putting the federation frame on it and support on it, and then to do it together instead of see each other as competitioners or divided into 2 paths, and that's amazing. If you really want to watch and study the game, then go to eSailing.tv. Or find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. We're doing 4 to 6 streams a week. We have 2 channels, and we're also putting up learning videos on the social media. And we have been doing that for almost 1.5 years now. So we have really good content in there.
All right, Thomas, thanks very much. Best of luck with that. If you want to give it a go, we've given you the details on that, but let us know what you thought. Did you enjoy it? The changes you'd make to the game? We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, or you can message us here on YouTube. Get in touch. It'd be great to hear from you. But that is episode 33. Whether you listen to the podcast or watch the vodcast on our YouTube channel, hope you've enjoyed it. We'll be doing more of these over the coming weeks, so stay tuned. From me, Alec Wilkinson, it's goodbye.